Well, hello, welcome back to Drucker TV, live here in Vienna. It's great to be here, and I'm delighted to say, by Claudio Fernández-Aráoz, a long-time friend of the Drucker Forum and a familiar face here to many people. Great to have you all the way from Argentina.
All the way from Argentina. It's a pleasure being with you again, Stefan. Thank you.
Well, you're one of the key and committed visitors to this event, partly because I think you find it strikes a chord with some of your research. Claudio had a long career in executive search and headhunting, and of course now teaches at Harvard, with a particular study now recently of family firms, which tell us something very interesting, I think, about your succession planning, of course, but also ethos, and really what we're all about in that big Peter Drucker sense of what is a business really for.
Yep. Yeah, I was quite fascinated. As you know, I've been working as a headhunter more than 3 decades and mostly hiring people from outside. And we decided to take a close look at the family businesses, large family businesses. We started looking at the world's largest family business, and then we focused in North American family business because we had more data. And one of the key things we wanted to look at was essentially CEO succession. CEO succession can make or break a company. It's by far the most consequential decision. It's the largest controllable factor in a company's value. And we were as surprised, as fascinated by the conclusions. Because most people think that the family businesses are plagued and corrupted by nepotism.
Yes.
And of course, that's what we all think about it. And
Yes.
to our surprise, we found that the world's largest family businesses actually manage CEO succession much better than the large non-family businesses from the same industry. So this was really quite fascinating.
And why are they so sensitive to this? Because, of course, instinctively we think a family business, the family name, the surname, is the clue to your career prospects, and that instinctively there would be some sort of automatic nepotism. But what do they understand about succession that some of us don't?
So first of all, the facts. When you look at the world's largest family businesses, only 11% of them are having family members as CEOs. While if you look at similar family businesses, equally old, which had not made it to become the greatest in the world, most of them are family members. So it's quite surprising. I think that the reason for this is that they have a commitment to building lasting greatness in perpetuity. And the interesting thing is that most family businesses actually appoint successors of the founder, family members. But those which really make it to become the greatest in the world, 94% of them already in the first succession appoint a non-family member. Of course, they have key family members in the board. These key family members get involved in these decisions, but somehow they are like the sun in the solar system. You know, the sun attracts the planets, keeps them in their orbits. The sun illuminates with the vision, and the sun gives life with the values. And this is what helps them build lasting greatness in perpetuity.
And they communicate somehow ethos, culture, tradition, values, perhaps sometimes explicitly and sometimes more subtly, I'm supposing.
Absolutely. And the way they also do it, you know, one of the things that surprised us is that they were so successful in this CEO succession. Just to give you again the facts. If you look at the world's largest family businesses, their CEO successions are much better than the largest non-family businesses in 3 ways. First, performance, financial performance after the succession is twice as strong as those of non-family businesses. Second, performance risk, the variability of performance is 50% lower. So they get higher returns with lower risk, which allows them to borrow more. They actually have 50% more debt, which further increases return on equity. And third, they embark on major value-added investments 3 times as frequently as non-family business. So they are really outstanding. Now, the question is, okay, how do they achieve this? No? We originally thought, when looking at these results, that they were choosing better CEOs. And that is probably the case, but I had an interesting conversation with Nitin Noria, the former dean of Harvard Business School. And he said, well, Claudio, maybe that's not the only reason. Maybe it's not that they select better people, but maybe they empower them more right from the start. And I think that's part of the answer, no? Because they know their companies and their people intimately. So the new CEOs hits the road running. So for example, if you look at Walmart, Walmart is one of the family businesses in our study, the world's largest employer. In terms of revenues, it was at least, and it may still be, the number one company in terms not of market cap, but in terms of revenues. And Sam Walton founded the company, and right from the very first succession, now they're in number 4 succession, they always appointed non-family members CEOs. And the point is that they would empower them, you know, like for example, the current CEO, someone who started unloading trucks when he was a student. And
that's a Walmart tradition.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam had the donuts with the drivers.
Exactly. And now the current CEO has been with the company 40 years. But for example, he went to them and said, we need to compete on online retail, you know, a huge departure for Walmart to compete with Amazon, and they supported him enormously. So they do it not only with the words, but with the actions, the empowerment.
And they have the courage to make bigger moves. You say they make bigger strategic moves with more competence and confidence, perhaps.
Absolutely. I mean, another example would be Ford. You know, when the whole auto industry in the US was really in trouble, Bill Ford hired Alan Mulally, company outsider, industry outsider, and the 2 other competitors basically accepted
the bailout,
the bailout from the government. And he proposed we should not doing it, but proposed to mortgage the assets of Ford, you know, which was like mortgaging the Ford last name, no? And they did it, and they supported it. So that is the difference. I think that part of the difference is that, you know, in non-family businesses, you have board members who maybe sit on 5, 6, 7 boards, who work for shorter periods, and they don't get to know the internal leaders as well.
That's interesting, because part of your finding challenges some of today's governance orthodoxy, which suggests that non-independent directors, non-executive directors should not do more than 6, 7, 8 years on a board, because there's a risk of them, as we would say, going native, becoming too. But on the contrary, you're saying there's some value in board members who really show a permanent kind of commitment.
You know, when Jim Collins did his research on Built to Last and Good to Great, he found in a research he labeled the dog that didn't bark, referring to some directors and board members. And he found that all of these organizations that had ignited these fabulous transitions from good to great and were able to sustain an extraordinary performance, at least for 15 years in a row, they all had some board members who had been there for a very long time, and they were deeply involved in strategy formulation and implementation. If you look at Sam Walton, for example, the first successor that he chose was David Glass. David Glass was a board member of Walmart for 40 years until he died at age 84. And it's the same thing. So this doesn't go against refreshing your boards and building diversity, but you should have some board members who really have strategic orientation, collaboration, influencing skills, absolute independence, and who are involved over the long run, helping you, particularly in these CEO succession decisions. It's fascinating, you know, when you look at nepotism, a fascinating example, I don't know whether you're familiar with it, comes from Japan. In Japan, paradoxically, most of the adoptions of children are of adults. And when you look at family businesses in Japan, 10% of the CEO successions come from the founder adopting as a son a professional. You know, and actually, that works much better than appointing a family member as successor. No? And if you think at it, it makes sense, because they have the ability to look for the best potential candidate, but in addition, they give them all the motivation, because they are going to inherit, the company,
It's
right?
important, yeah.
So large family businesses don't necessarily go to the way of adopting a successor, but they really choose with significant independence their successors, and they do a fabulous job. And the family businesses are outstanding. They are more resilient, more long-term oriented, have wonderful values, create more employment.
Yes.
So they're really very good.
Now, at a London business school, that Nigel Nicholson studied family firms, and he once told me that when family firms work, they are fantastic, and they outclass and outperform. When they go wrong with a kind of operatic catastrophe. Does that sound familiar to you?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, and Professor Fang from the Chinese University in Hong Kong has looked at CEO succession in East Asia and found that on average, CEO succession destroys 60% of the value in family firms. So not all family firms get it right, and I would say that probably the majority doesn't, but those who do get it right build these extraordinary values and perform even better than non-family firms. So we are all prone to this temptation of nepotism, of surrounding ourselves with similar people,
Yes.
with people we feel comfortable with people we love, and of course, our children fall in that category. And that comes from the primitive man. When the primitive man was by the campfire and a stranger approach, how do you decide whether you welcome them or you fight or flight? If the person is similar to me, I welcome a member of the same tribe. If the person is familiar, I welcome someone who had not hurt me before. If I feel comfortable in that, and that we are having this conversation because all of our ancestors made the right decision.
Yes.
But today, to build winning teams,
Yes.
you need the opposite to similarity, familiarity, and comfort. You need, complementing skills that really are the opposite of similarity and familiarity. It's about diversity, and they do it in the right way. Yeah.
Well, I hope while you're here, you get a chance to speak to Professor Robin Dunbar, who's an evolutionary psychologist,
Yes.
and he'll be on Drucker TV in an hour or two from now.
I'll be
That's doing a plug.
fascinated. Yeah, I've read him.
What do you? Perhaps a last question. What would you tell to your younger self, to the younger Claudio, earlier on in the search career? Given what you now know
Yes.
about these family firms and how they have managed succession so well, how would that have? What different advice might you have given to clients?
Well, to the young Claudio, the first thing that I would tell, I was a headhunter for many years, is that companies should look much more within than outside. Because if you look at the S&P 1500 in the US, 26% of the times they hire their CEOs from outside. Ridiculous. Companies with 100,000 employees, don't they have one successor? It's absurd, no? Yeah. And so this is the first thing that I would tell, no? So that you should look inside. And second, you should not look so much for experience or IQ or academic achievement. You should look first for the values of the individuals and then for the potential to grow and learn, because I always say it about Argentina. We were just having this conversation. Argentina, my native country where I live, is a place where even the past is unpredictable, no? But the whole world has become like this. And when the whole world has become like this, even current competence is enough. What got you here, it's not that it won't get you there. It won't even allow you to stay here if you don't have the potential to continue growing and learning. So this is what I would tell the young Claudio. Look at values and potential, and all of the rest you can develop. And look inside before going outside.
Yes, because this is a crucial decision, as you say. Succession, the company is at stake.
Absolutely.
The future direction, the employees are looking to see what's going to come.
Yep.
It's a very, very big moment. People should proceed with care and understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Claudio, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much.
In Vienna. We've learnt so much. No wonder your classrooms at Harvard are always full. And your paper is available on the Harvard website.
And it was published a year ago in the Ideas at Work, the very first article of the November-December issue of last year, and it's all about CEO succession in large family firms.
Well, that's terrific. Well, I'm sure they'll get a lot of traffic to that website once they've listened to you today. Right. Thank you very much for joining us on this session of Drucker TV. Thanks again to Claudio, and see you again in a few minutes.